Hi. Hi, Sue. Do you mind if I give you the entire make you the host? So you would have control over everything? I'm sorry, you're muted.
I just got here, so I didn't hear your comment because it wasn't open before.
Okay. Do you mind if I make you the host? You're like,
please do.
Okay. So you are the full host. No one else is going to have any power over anything.
I have a quick question. I have a quick question before we start. I have to cut out. I have to drive my son to football practice in a little bit. So I'm not gonna be able to watch the whole session, but you said you guys were recording.
Not only recording, but I'm gonna post right now in the chat there. I have already posted all the materials. So okay. Both the PowerPoint, which has some links and also some documents, are already there. You'll have to ask Chris about where to find recordings.
Okay.
The recordings are going to be on that the first page of the when you first get into the whole area, where you can go to your Zoom, or you can go to, there's a section for recordings, and those are being posted as they are completed.
Were you able to record the last session?
They did record the last session, and this is being recorded. You can see the little red dot up there.
I'm going to wait a few minutes because I think people need a rump break after the last one. So I won't start till, for another 4 minutes or so. In fact, I'm going to take a quick break and I'll be right back, but I'm going to put up my presentation so people know that they're in the right place.
Where did that go?
There we go.
Great.
Supposed to be able to get out of.
You have a question, Ann?
I'm looking at the what she shared with us, and I'm just trying to figure out how to put it in, save a copy into my drive. I'm not as good with Google Drive.
Well, all of these items are also going to be in a Google Drive that will be available to you, and you don't have to do it right now. Yeah, they're shared with everybody. What you do is you click on them, and I think you can then download them and convert them to a Word file and put them in your things, or they're always available on Google Drive, so you can always go get one.
You just have to
hang on. I gotta stop that because it's refusing to make things only part of the.
Froze Wendy. Oh no.
Yeah, hang on. When I go to, I have to use presenter view. There we go, because otherwise it takes over my whole screen. Nope. That still doesn't do it.
That's why I use 2 computers the entire school year.
Yeah, well, normally I would, but I had to turn in both of my computers to get new ones, and I'm working with my home computer, and it's not quite as updated as everything else.
No, I get it. I'm just.
Although maybe that's a thought. Hang on, that's a good thought, Judy. Why don't I do this? It won't look quite as fancy, but you know what?
This is
fun. I love working with 2 computers.
I use one, I write on my tablet, and I watch and I look at stuff on the other one. So
do you now see making your own classroom videos?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm on my mini iPad. That will work.
It's amazing how tech savvy we had to become.
Yes. All right, I need to see the chat. And again, for those that just joined in, I'm waiting a few minutes because I think people needed a bathroom rump break.
So I'm going to apologize in advance. So you'll see me cut out a little after 4 o'clock because I have to drive my son to football. But
I get it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, my dad's already prepped that grocery delivery is going to be later than usual today because had to wait until after this.
I'm already planning for next summer because I have 16-year-old twins. And I'm like, okay, we can take them to Colby and we can visit Colby and we can visit all the colleges and I'm just going to make it a whole.
And where do you live, Anne?
I live in Greenwich, Connecticut, but I teach in Westchester County.
Okay.
And my kids go to private school in Westchester.
My cousins all grew up in Westchester. So you could also do, I mean, if you're going to come to Maine, then of course you're going to stop in Boston. I grew up outside of Boston and my parents cried because my one rule was I need to go to out of state for college because I need to be a little bit away. And they're like, but there's 150 schools that are one train ride away. And I was like, nope.
My daughter's doing the same thing. She'll go to Vermont. She'll go to Maine. We've looked in Pennsylvania. She does not want Boston.
Is she going to be a senior this year?
She is a senior. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea where my twins will go. I have 5 children. My oldest went to SCAD, which was in Savannah, Georgia. My second just graduated from UPenn, biomedical engineering, science, yay. My son is a rising junior at RPI, and who knows where the twins will be. So we'll see.
Are they going together, you think?
No, not at all. They're not even in the same high school. They both go to single sex high schools. One goes to, one goes to, it's called Holy Child. It's an all girls school. And my son is at Iona Prep.
Okay.
So my daughter who's 16. I see her maybe doing coding, that going computer science kind of. My son, who knows? No clue.
All right, I'm going to get going here. And I'm going to try to end a little early before the prizes and things at 4:45 to again give people a little bit of a break. So this is about making your own videos. I am no expert, absolutely not, but I'm going to share what I have learned. Oops, hang on. I'm using less comfortable. This is my mini and it doesn't quite. Because of course I didn't, my pencil, Apple Pencil is with other stuff. So leave when you want, stay muted unless you're speaking, although we have a pretty small group. So if you want to stay unmuted, that's not going to bother me. Ask questions anytime, interrupt me anytime. Talking a little bit about who we are and what you need. Then I'm going to talk about 2 different kinds of videos that sort of replace quote unquote lectures and things that are live like demos and labs, because I treat them slightly differently. And then we'll also talk about how do you get videos to students and what I've learned for that. And again, in the chat is where all this stuff is. My situation, I teach on the coast of Maine in a public high school that's about 750 students, which is coming from 5 different towns. We have the unusual situation in that the district is just the high school, and we have 5 different sending districts, plus a bunch of independent schools that come to us. I've been teaching since 1979, and I can never count up how many years that is, but it is what it is. I teach at the moment honors chemistry and college prep physics and a project-based physics class, but I've taught all kinds of chemistry from honors to college prep to tech prep to adult ed to alternative ed and bunches of other stuff along the years. Last year, I was simultaneous in-person Zoom hybrid. So while overall 90% of our students were in class, it varied widely. So some of my physics classes were 50% remote, 50% in class. My honors chemistry classes were almost entirely in person. It was really interesting that we found there was a huge difference between the CP classes and the honors classes as to how many kids chose to be in person. It was an equity thing, unfortunately. We have not much cultural diversity, but socioeconomic diversity, yin to yang. I was going to do a couple of poll questions officially, but I think I'm just going to do it orally and have you sing out. Raise your hand if you think you made a lot of videos last year. How about if you made a few videos last year? How about if videos like terrify you and you got everything from someplace else? Okay. All right. So the first lesson is easy does it. One of the things that for me came out of COVID was that the lecture I'm constantly giving to my anxious A-type sophomore girls, I had to give to myself, which is know your capability and your capacity. A lot of us have the capability to learn oodles and oodles of tech information, but we quickly ran out of capacity last year. Mentally, there was a limit on how much new stuff I could learn. And I quickly came to like, okay, yes, that sounds really cool, but I'm not going to do that right now because I don't have the capacity to put one more thing in my brain. So be kind to yourself and consider both, not just your capability, but also your capacity. When you find a good tutorial on something, bookmark it, because even if you think, oh, I got that skill, you're going to forget it 2 weeks from now when you go to make another video. And so when you find a good tutorial, I have bookmarks of lots and lots of good YouTube tutorials, because it's like, I know that I'm going to forget how to do thus and such. I'll forget this step. And so I bookmark them because my short-term memory is not what it was a year and a half ago, for sure. So the first kind of video I'm going to talk about is what I would call a lecture tutorial. And this might replace something that you would do in class. It might replace something that you'd flipped at home. But basically, it's information stuff. First of all, yes, go hunt up something on YouTube. Tyler DeWitt is one of my students' favorites for chemistry. If you haven't seen any of his stuff, TYLER DEWITT. He's kind of slow, but really careful. He does a great job on stuff, and I often use his stuff or pieces of his stuff. Khan Academy for me is hit or miss. Sometimes they go off in ozone that I have no intention of going into, but those are great. There are many kinds of little screencasting things that you probably have come across. It depends on what kind of platform, are you casting off of your iPad, off of a Mac, off of a whatever. And for that, I'm not actually going to go over that, but I would say talk to somebody in your building. But this is basically click a button and it's going to record what you're saying. And it may record what's on your screen, or it just might record your voice. It's really quick. It's really easy. You may find that you don't want to keep it after you've recorded it. one of the things I've learned is watch what you've recorded before you post it. And that may sound really dumb, but I've done the opposite because of lack of time and then gone, ooh, that was really bad. Or my kids let me know that. And I know there's a couple of apps that allow you to put your picture in the bottom corner when you are just doing a screencasting. And I cannot remember the name of those apps right now. I've been trying to think about that for a week. And everything that I've heard says that is a really great idea if you're just doing a screencast, because kids like to see a picture of a face. It's one of the reasons they like Tyler DeWitt stuff, because his little face is in the corner talking at them.
I got a question, Sue.
Go for it.
When you say screencasting, that's an unfamiliar term. Is that a generic term?
Sorry, it's a generic term.
Yeah. Okay.
It basically means that you're on Zoom or something like that.
Okay.
Usually, and you want to record what you're doing while you're doing it.
Okay.
And Screencastify is automatically on a lot of Macs, or it could be something that you just sit down in the morning in your office and you speak out your lecture and record it. But it's just you're staring into the camera and you're talking and you want to record that.
So basically you could do that with a Zoom that you opened.
Absolutely. And then you post it for the kids that weren't there.
Okay. And you could include a PowerPoint in that and so forth and talk about it. Yeah.
Anything that was on your screen when you were talking is going to show up on your screencast.
Just like you would do it in class, basically.
Yeah. Like in my computer, I just hit Command 5. Shift Command 5, and it automatically starts recording. I mean, it gives me 3, 2, 1, and then it starts recording. They're really that sort of simple. So for that, the reason I'm not going to go through that is because every platform is a little different. So I would say, go talk to your neighbors who are using the same kind of machine that you are and ask them, how do you Screencastify? So if they're using the same machine and the same operating system that you are, you'll get the directions. It's slightly different, of course, on everything, because why would they make it the same for everything?
Sure.
Screencastify does, I believe, let you put the picture in the bottom.
Yeah, I think it does now.
Purchased it. I turned it off, but I'll turn it back on. But I think that one does. Just where
the newest version of that does. You're right. Oops, hang on. Went to sleep. If you are a Mac user and an iPad user, one of my absolute all-time favorite apps is called ExplainEverything. And it's this funky looking E over here. I'm gonna tap on it. It does have a free version, which does not give you very much to work with. But it's one of those like, oh yeah, you could make 3 simple explain everythings. And then after that, you're going to have to pay for it. And those are not very involved. What I like about this app is that I can import something like a PowerPoint that I already have, that I've been using for years to teach from. And then I can talk over each slide or write and annotate over each slide. And you sort of record it slide by slide. Could also delete things from your PowerPoint that you didn't want, or Keynote or whatever. And then you turn it into a movie that you post and it'll put it all together. But it's a pretty shallow learning curve, I found, to make a new project. I don't have any on this particular machine because this is my mini, but I can show you if I go back to, where was I? The one at the bottom of the screen here from YouTube is one that I made on Lewis models for polyatomic ions. And it's a great example of previewing your work. This was something that came up towards the end of the year. And I don't think I realized how exhausted I really was, because when I went to preview it a month ago, when I was putting this together, I realized there's a whole section of audio that never saved. So it like stops in the middle of when it's supposed to save. But I'm just going to show you the first like 60 seconds of it so that you can see what it looks like when you take a slide and you turn it into a lecture, you know, a slideshow, and you turn it into a lecture video. So hopefully, no, it doesn't want to do that. So we're going to have to do it this way. Hang on a second. I go. Nope, 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 nope. I may avoid that for a second because, of course, that got rid of all of that. Lovely. This is a good time to talk about platforms while I'm hunting all this stuff up. Where do you put videos is a really important question. We use a platform called Schoology, and that's a great place for me to store the links because this is what I send to my students, and it gives them sort of an agenda for the day and so forth. And I have all my resources here. So if I went to my honors chem class, and I went to, oh, and you're not seeing this, sorry. Hang on, back to here, back to screen share, desktop. Sorry, that's what happens when I'm working on two different. So if I go to, where was that? Oh, chemical bonding. I have a weird thing where we don't talk about polyatomic ions until about 3/4 of the way through the year. So here's a piece of one. This is Lewis Models tutorial on atoms, ions, and compounds. I had a big, huge Lewis Models PowerPoint, something that kids look at chunks of over, you know, like 2 weeks. And so then I took little pieces of it. I dumped it all into Explain Everything, and I took little pieces of it and I made, this is a tutorial on valence electrons and ionic bond models. Representations of molecules in terms of their bonding goes back to the beginning of the 1900s. And we're going to start with Gilbert Lewis, an American who lived from 1875 to 1946. His goal was to explain the periods of 8 elements that you can see in the periodic table. I'm going to stop it right there because I just want to show you that in Explain Everything, I'm looking at this particular slide. I hit record and I start talking, but I can also highlight. I can write on the slides. I can do anything as if I was showing it on a blackboard, and that will then show up on my recording. And it's very easy to go back and wipe out what you did on that particular slide and keep going. And then you move to your next slide and you talk again. So sometimes I would record things at different times. And then at the end, you say export as a movie, and it turns the whole thing into a movie. So that's why I like this particular one. I can import presentations, I can import videos, I can import pictures, I can write on it, draw on it, do anything I want on it piece by piece, and then upload it. So for me, it worked out as a pretty easy medium to use.
Yeah, you know what you do? See, I'm upstairs and I don't do stairs too often. But you know, you could just
Sandy, you're kind of
sorry.
That's okay. Let me go back to, where am I? Let me just pull this up here and that will work. Why don't I do that? So Explain Everything is one of my favorites. Again, find a medium that you like and stick with it for a long time before you find, oh, it's too simple for me. You know, it doesn't do what I want. My suggestion is start simple. I started with just recording what I was doing. And then I decided, you know, I'd really like to be able to write on things. And I went to this one. You know, you've got a limited capacity. You've got a limited amount of time. Do what you can. You know, you don't try to be like your students and be perfect. Do what you can. Yes, Kathy.
I'm assuming you don't do too much editing.
On this one, what's nice is I'll record that particular slide.
Yeah.
And then I'll go back and listen to it to make sure I didn't do too many goofs or somebody didn't walk into the room. And then I'll record the next slide. Yeah, and you don't, I usually find that because I'm recording maybe 30 seconds or a minute at a time, I don't really have to do much editing. And so once you finish that, you hit export. It does take it a little bit of time to turn it into a movie. And then you put it on the platform that you're going to put it on, which I'll talk about at the end. So that's one of the advantages of this one is it didn't take me, once I got used to the platform, it did not take me very much time to do that. If you're used to using Notability, you can do something similar. It's a little less able, I think, than ExplainEverything. But if you're comfortable with Notability, be aware that Notability does have an audio function. And you can, the problem with Notability is that you have to export it as what they call a .note, which is Notability's format. And a student would have to have Notability in order to play it back. Whereas ExplainEverything is going to turn everything into a .move, a movie that you can put anywhere. This is my go-to one for, I'm just recording a lecture. I'm just recording a tutorial. I can simply import into ExplainEverything a worksheet and then record going over how to do the answers to the worksheet and dump that up as a tutorial. You know, so that's another way that you can import anything into ExplainEverything. It works best on an iPad with or tablet with a pen, a stylus of some kind. I think it's available for Windows, but I'm not 100% sure of that. It wasn't too expensive, but it did cost me money. I'm going to jump to where I put things and then come back to what do I do about live stuff. You can put things on whatever your school's student platform is. Usually they have some storage space, but that storage space is limited and videos after a while take up a gazunch of space. So I put them on YouTube. You can easily get a channel for yourself on YouTube. And it stores everything for free. And then you just get the YouTube link, which you post wherever your student's platform is. That also has the advantage that if you're, I'm less concerned that all of YouTube would crash than that my school's platform might crash. And if my school's platform crashes, then I've lost all my videos if that's where they are. You certainly aren't going to be able to store them all on your laptop or desktop unless you have a server the size of Mount Vernon. So you need to store them someplace. All right. And YouTube, I think, is probably the most reliable place to store them. I also keep a spreadsheet for myself of all my YouTube URLs and the title of the video. Because if the only place that the links are is on my student platform, and I either change schools or they change the platform, I've lost all of that. And I am worried that at some point we're going to say, oh, Schoology is not what we're going to use anymore. We're going to go to blah, blah, blah. And if all of my links are only on my student platform, I'm sunk. So every time I make a video and I put it on YouTube, I copy that URL and I stick it on a spreadsheet, which has a page for each of my courses. And it lists the title of the video, the topic, you know, or you could list the unit number or whatever you want, and the URL. And that's very handy. Does anybody want to see what it looks like to store things on YouTube, what your storage would look like?
Can I ask a quick question before you go on?
Even a slow one.
Did you have any problems getting your videos from Explain Anything to YouTube?
I did not. You export them as a, what I actually did is I did it in 2 steps. I'm working on my iPad.
Right.
So I exported them as a movie, and then I airdropped them to my desktop. And I went from my desktop to YouTube because I found that was easier. Sometimes my iPad skills are not nearly as good as my desktop skills. It is what it is. So that's what I did. I airdropped things because before I remembered that I could airdrop, which one of my students reminded me, she said, like, can you airdrop this to me? I was uploading it to my email or Google Drive and then downloading it to my desktop. And like, that was dumb. AirDrop is one button and it would just show up on my desktop. And then I would put it on YouTube and then delete it off my desktop because otherwise my desktop would say you've run out of room.
Right. But I have no problem making the videos on my iPad using Explain Everything, or I have done it on Notability too. But I was having I couldn't get them. I can't say I never got them, but I was having a really hard time getting them onto YouTube. And thank you very much. You're the one who taught me how to make my own YouTube channel in one of our chem chats.
Just airdrop it to your desktop, and then I didn't find any difficulty having YouTube find my things that were on my desktop on my desktop, on my laptop.
Thank you.
Did you have any trouble setting up a YouTube channel? Like, I've never done anything like that.
No, you go to YouTube and let me show you what it looks like. If I'm in YouTube and I go up here to the little thing, the first thing I had to learn is that it's not on your channel. I'd go to my channel and there's no content. It's like, no, you have to go to YouTube Studio. Don't ask me why. I guess channel is like for some commercial thing or other that I've never bothered with. And then in here, the first thing you get to is this channel dashboard and you hit upload video and then you go find your video and you upload it. The next thing down is my content. And there's all my content. I can filter it. I have tagged them by my course. But if I look at these, I can play it. I can copy a link to put someplace. I can edit the title and description. When you put things on YouTube, you get to give it a title, give it a description. For me, that's become what unit and course is it in. I've discovered that for me, that just happens to be more useful than what it's about because I'm the one that has to find it.
Is it then open to all of YouTube to find?
Okay. No, you choose. When I make things, you'll see here, I don't know if you can see here, it says unlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Because I use occasionally pictures of my students, and occasionally I will actually take a 15-second clip from somebody else's YouTube, which both of those have copyright issues. I make them as unlisted. And then the only people that have access to are the people that I give the link to. And since that's on our school platform, which is only open to students, I am told that that is legit in terms of both HIPAA for student, having a student picture up there. They never have names with their pictures, but occasionally there's a picture of a student up there. And also for copyright issues, if I've borrowed a 15-second clip from somebody else, which I always acknowledge in it, but you know, you don't use somebody else's stuff that way. So make it unlisted. And that way the only people that have access are whoever you give the link to. Very good point.
Thank you. Thank you. That's important.
And at the same, also make sure it'll ask you whether it's made for kids. Say yes. Because otherwise there's all this crap that happens. I did automatically because I'm saying, yeah, it's for my students. They're, you know, they're not over 21. But it turns out a friend told me that if you don't make it, click on made for kids, then there's other like hoops that you have to go through. So just say it's made for kids.
I've got a question. When you, we have a series of, the teacher I worked with has a series of YouTube things for each lab. So when you click on one lab, you automatically, when you finish it, it automatically goes to the next one. Does that always happen with YouTube?
No, that's got to be something that this very clever person set up.
Oh, all right. I'd rather not do that. I'd rather just have what I sent them, you know, put that up, go to that place, look at it, and then do something else. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it's mine just show whatever it shows.
Yeah.
Oops, I want to go back to here. The other place that I often take videos that I've made is to dump them on EdPuzzle after I put them on YouTube. If you're not familiar with EdPuzzle, it's a great way to have. The advantage of EdPuzzle is the kids have to watch and then respond. So you embed questions at different places in EdPuzzle. And for a lot of platforms, for Schoology that I use, for Google Classroom, you can automatically take things from EdPuzzle and put it in your, whatever your platform set, you know, things for students to do, it automatically transfers in, which is really cool. And EdPuzzles can be for points or not for points. There's all kinds of things you can do with it. So it's another place, if you want to have some accountability, that's another whole issue. But YouTube is my go-to place to keep things, but do keep a spreadsheet list of all of your URLs and what they're for, just in case your school platform goes down. Because usually I realized that was the only place I really had that information other than scrolling through all of my stuff on YouTube, which for a while wasn't very long, but it's getting longer.
How hard is it to set up a EdPuzzle?
That was pretty low learning curve. It did take me probably took me a half an hour to make my first one because I needed to figure out, okay, what kind of question, how do I move? I put the question in the wrong place. How do I move it? You know, all those kinds of things. They have wicked good tutorials on YouTube for how to do EdPuzzle, which is what I would, you know, bookmark. But after that, I can make them pretty quick. If I took something for physics from when SpaceX landed, that did their vertical landing, and it was a 3-minute video, and I think it took me 15 minutes to do the entire EdPuzzle after I'd done maybe 6 or 7 of them. So like anything else, the first one is slow, but it's not nearly as complicated as some other things that I have used. Also check around and find, like there was somebody else in my building who had, EdPuzzle was one of those things that last summer I said, this is really cool, but I don't have the capacity to deal with this right now. But Ken in my department uses it right now. And so I simply made a note, talk to Ken when you're ready. And it was April break when I said, okay, I've gained a little bit more capacity back. I'd like to do EdPuzzle. And that's when I added it in. So you may find that there's somebody near you that, and he, for example, sent me his favorite YouTube video, and so that I didn't have to even look through what are all the tutorials on YouTube? He said, watch this one. Because he had bookmarked it.
Does this keep a record of answer, whatever it is, of students responding to it?
Yes, it gives you a wonderful record of how long did students watch this? Did they get the answers right? You can even do open-ended answers as well as multiple choicey kinds of things, or true falsey kinds of things. You can also put in a note, so you could have it pause at some point and you record a couple of sentences, like you would say, if you were showing the video live, there might be places that you would pause and talk. You could do that on EdPuzzle.
The other thing with EdPuzzle is sometimes another teacher has made exactly what you want, and you can borrow it, and it's okay that you could make a copy of it and borrow it. My daughter's chemistry teacher reached out to me and went, "Hey, I just used one of your EdPuzzles," so.
Yeah, and I would agree. If you make an EdPuzzle, make it public. Don't be shy. If people don't like it, they won't use it, but it may be exactly what somebody else needs, and you've just saved them a half an hour of work.
Do kids have to sign up for it or not?
Yes, kids do have to sign up for it. That was the other reason I waited. Very early on in the fall, it was clear to me that even though half of my kids already had EdPuzzle accounts, if I asked my kids to sign up for one more thing, they were disappearing off of Zoom and never coming back. They had lit their capacity. They had reached it. So they do have to sign up, but it's free.
And depending on your school platform, I also use Schoology. My school in Schoology has EdPuzzle.
Right. So my kids did not have to sign up.
So they didn't have to sign up for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because it would automatically say your homework is to do this EdPuzzle, and it would automatically take them there.
And then whatever grade that they got went right to Schoology.
Yep.
So, those grades got populated. But then of course we use a different grade book system, so you have to transfer from Schoology to the.
Luckily, I only have to transfer at the end of the quarter when they print out their report card. And the other thing I often did with EdPuzzle is I would make it graded and take a look at what those grades were. And then I just turned them into an automatic 1-point participation because I didn't want it to be a high-low grade. I just wanted them to, particularly when I had a lot of kids that were remoting, and I just wanted to say, oh my God, did you actually consent to go through this? So I turned them all into that, but that was easy. It was like, name one, name one, name one, name one instantly, but I had them recorded as grades so that I could actually see, oh, yeah, nobody got this point.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
If EdPuzzle's if I know some of the bio teachers have it, but I don't know if my school has it. I don't know if your school already has it. Do you know how much access you get if it's free? I know it's better than some, I think. Maybe that isn't something that you know.
In honesty, I don't remember, because in all honesty, at this point, I can't even remember which things I paid for and which things my school paid for and which things I'm just using the freebie version of.
Okay. I couldn't remember, but also just kind of what Cass said. If the students have a Gmail or a Google account, most platforms, they can just log in with that Google. And so, because I used to have them always sign up, and I did that this year, and the school has turned everything into that. So that's one way, if you're able, that you can alleviate that for them.
Yeah, if your school uses Google Classroom, it again will automatically assign them that, apparently. I don't use that, so I don't know that much about. I'm gonna move on a little bit because I wanna get to one other piece, but I'll leave time for questions at the end. I wanna talk a little bit about what do I do about live videos, demos, and labs. Over in the picture here is a little stand for my tablet that I bought. I think it was between $15 and $20 on Amazon. I just searched tablet stand. It is the best thing ever. I can prop it up on my desk and live show a video. And it's also what I use to record videos. You could change the angle enough that you can really see something that's right on your desk. I'm for simple. I didn't use a different camera. I just used my iPad as a camera. Some of you may have really nice phones. My phone is a really cheap phone, so I don't use the camera on my phone, but the camera on my iPad was dandy fine, and the microphone on my iPad was absolutely fine for recording live videos. If it's, and I just used the automatic video record that's on photos in my iPad for a lot of things. And if you do a reasonable job of that, I would simply export that as a movie and up it would go on YouTube. Sometimes I wanted to put more polish on things. And I did go back and remember how to use iMovie, which I hadn't used in years. It's one of those things I actually took a course on years and years ago and then totally forgot everything about it. And what iMovie allowed me to do was to put headings, pauses, questions, that kind of stuff, or upload stills. So for example, we do a simple visual colorimetry lab where you dilute blue dye and then you figure out the percentage of some unknown, and then you mix yellow and blue dye and you figure out what's in this green unknown kind of stuff. And I actually uploaded that with the completed pictures of the spot plates so that students who were at home could do the lab. No, they didn't get the joy of making micro pipettes, but I actually walked through, I did the lab and then put them up. And I did an electrolysis demo. There was one I found that was pretty good, but it gave away too much. And I like to do electrolysis as my introduction to bonding, and I make the kids sort of figure out what's going on as we did it. So I used, for most of the year, I actually used the electrolysis one that I found on YouTube, but then I took the time, once I got my power source working again, to make one. And those, if I go back to YouTube, if I can find filter. Oh, here's the colorimetry one. By the way, it will pick a frame to make as a picture. If you want, you could actually upload a picture of your own to be what kids see. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. This is a really long one. It's 10 minutes long. But I just want to show you the beginning of it. Oops. Because, oh, let me go back to the beginning here. Because this is one where I put in titles from iMovie. Welcome to another Headless, mostly, video. This one is on colorimetry. And I know you can't hear the sound very well. The kids joked that all my videos were headless because that was the way that they could see the stuff and not me. So I ended up calling them the headless videos. So I showed them the whole, like, how to stretch out a pipette and stuff like that. And let's see
you
if
have
I can quickly.
If you didn't optimize it for the video, if you didn't optimize Zoom for the video, you won't hear it very well.
I know, and I'm aware of that. I just wanted to show you.
Sure. No, that's probably why we can't hear it.
This one also turned out to be pretty faint. I had to warn the kids, crank up the audio. I think I didn't have, oh yeah, here we go. So then I chopped in, iMovie lets you chop videos into pieces. So I could stop at certain places. This is where I was filling in all the wells. And I'm going to keep going until I have 20 drops. And I know you can't hear it very much. And then I put in an and then. I could also put in places where I would say stop and do the calculations in step 4. And I could write that in iMovie. So that was kind of an extra polish that I did. Let's get rid of that.
I found that with a Zoom recording, you can actually cut part of it out, and you can then you send that part that you want them to see to whoever you want to see it. But the whole thing is still there. They just can only see the part that you designated.
Yes, there are lots of different, I would say my last thing before I open this up to lots of questions is that, you know, pick your battles. I had a little bit of capacity about halfway through the year, so I went back to iMovie because I was comfortable. I said to myself, I don't remember how to do this, but I know how to do this. It won't take me very long to remember, you know, to go back, find the tutorials and figure out where were titles. And plus the fact that since I did it the last time, of course, iMovie's been updated and they moved where all the controls were, because every time somebody makes a new version of the app, they move all the controls so that you can't find anything. That's what they all do. They mess with the stuff that works as well as the stuff that didn't. So, and I found, okay, I could do that. So I already had the videos and I could push them, I could take them back off of, you know, put them back into iMovie, polish them up. So, but again, just taking a straightforward video using whatever you've got on your desktop or your iPad propped up on something and taking it and putting it up there is better than not having anything at all. And I'm actually looking forward to the fact that this year, when my students are absent, they get to see the demos, because all of my demos are predict, observe, explain. And if they missed the demo in the past, they missed the demo. I would make them come in after school and do a lab, but I wasn't going to make them come in and redo the demo because I didn't have time to redo that 10 times for the 10 kids that were absent all on and were available on different days. So now almost all of my demos are up. And so if you're absent, yep, you still got to do you still have to turn in your demo journal. And here's the demo, you know, here's the link to the demo. Questions. What do you want to know how to do that I haven't talked about? Or what are your big bugaboos?
So I know that you obviously record a bunch of labs. Did you do any labs that involved fire? Because I tried to record them and like, especially the flame, you couldn't see it or anything. So I just wondered if you figured out like how to get the color or how to make any of that visible, or if that's just something we can't do.
I did not do that for that exact reason. Because when you go on YouTube, people do really cool things with filters in order to show combustion. So in those cases, what I did, and what I will continue to do, because now that we're back in person, I can go back to a more robust combustion unit, is I'll probably clip 15 seconds from something that's already on YouTube. And the way I do that is I simply do, you know, if you do, for me on it's Command 4 gives me a snapshot, a still picture of something, and Command 5, I can record something. So I'm playing it on YouTube, and then I bring my screen over to what I want to record and I record it. So it's a recording of a recording, because you can't download most YouTubes.
Right.
You got to record them off the screen. And for me, it's simply Command Shift 5 and it automatically happens. And I'm doing really short clips, and I do give credit for them in the videos that I make. And I do make sure they're unlisted so I'm not stepping on people's toes. Hopefully.
Because even if I found good ones, it didn't have my, like what I would have said why they were doing the lab in class. So the students who were remote and didn't do the flame test lab, like different unknowns, they were messing up. The colors didn't go in the order of the data table. So they messed up all these little things, but okay.
So that might be something where it's worth taking the time to take a bunch of little clips from the YouTube and then make something. For example, for those of you that teach physics, there's this place called Physics Classroom, and they have these dynamite videos of what are called dot motion tracks for steady speed forward, steady speed backward, and all these different accelerations. And I actually took the time to make, they're about 15-second clips of the 6 kinds of motion, and then I can use them and stored them, and then I can use them. I've used them in all kinds of different things, and I'm always giving them, you know, and they're part of much longer problems and videos, but I am giving them credit, and they're only accessible to my students who also are using that same paid platform, so I don't feel like I'm ripping them off. I would also invite any of you that if you have a topic that you want I haven't published a YouTube channel. So if there's something that you want a YouTube on that I might have made, a demo or a lab, just email me. Let me go back to my first one. I think I put, oh, no, I didn't. I'll put it in the chat. It's just sklemmer@mac.com or at iCloud.com. I still use the original one. Just send me an email like, do you happen to have something on blah, blah, blah? And if I do, I'll shoot it to you. I'd love to have eventually on NEACT a library of teacher videos of different demos and labs, because I think that would be a real resource, but that is a project for later.
That actually would probably be awesome if we could all just share our videos, you know.
I mean, the other thing I can send you if you wanted is my spreadsheet, you know, which Scott, most of the, I do have to do a little bit. I must admit that May and June, I didn't put everything immediately on my spreadsheet, and it's one of those things I still have to do. But, you know, I'll send you my spreadsheet because it's got all the links. Just let me know. But it would have, you know, Judy, it doesn't have to be any more complicated. I think I have a 5-column spreadsheet with just stuff. Anything else that I can do for you lovely ladies? Because I do want to give people a bit of a break before we have to come back at what, 45, which is like 10 minutes from now.
Oh. I need to at least go feed my dog and let her out, so.
Well, thank you so much, Sue. Very inspiring. I'm excited to try some stuff.
And if you get stuck and nobody around you can help, shoot me an email. I don't guarantee that I can solve it, but I'll find somebody that can.
I'm not going to try to get complicated. So,
I mean, when I started teaching, I didn't have a Xerox machine. You know?
Yeah.
And I was delighted with this new thing called a calculator, which I didn't have until my junior year in college.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think about my grandfather, who was born in 1890 with no electricity, and saw somebody walk on the moon before he died. So, you know, I think whatever we manage to learn, good for us.
Yeah.
Well, you've also inspired me to try again with my Explain Everything and Notability apps, because I resorted to recording myself on my Google Meet as a,
yep,
which again, worked. You know, it worked.
Judy.
And I did it, you know, to make my videos, but they're not as, I guess, nice as I would have liked them to be.
Mm-hmm. Over the next several years, I expect a lot of the videos that I've got on YouTube are probably going to get replaced, because we are who we are as teachers and we like things to look nice. But, you know, we do what we can do with the time that we have, and we shouldn't feel bad for meeting our students as best we can.
And last year was last year, like whatever you.
Yeah. And as one of my favorite science educators said, your job is not to teach your students everything, it's to push their thinking forward and then send them on to the next person who's going to continue to push their thinking forward. So whatever they got last year was more than they would have got without you.
I actually think that's why my last year was okay. It's because I went in with that attitude, like whatever they get, they get. And it was an okay year for me. The other year that was okay for me was when one of my kids was sick and I was more focused on the kids than school. So those years tend to go better.
Yeah.
One thing I did last year, I like Explain Everything, or I want to like it, but I always had trouble because if I would, maybe I'm trying to do too much, where I try and have everything ready and then pull in, this is, you know, drag in and then write on that, and things would shift and I wouldn't want them to shift that way. So what I've been doing is on my iPad in Notability, there's like a round dot. And if you push that, it's kind of like it might be what you're saying, like the screen record, but it's just so much easier and faster, and it automatically saves to my camera roll.
Nice. Yeah. I actually use Notability now for student audio explanations where they have to write out a problem and then talk me orally through how they solved it, because the record function is so easy on Notability, and we're an iPad school, so they all have some familiarity.
Yeah.
If there is nothing else, I am going to give you ladies a bit of a break, and I'll see you back in, by the way, this presentation and also some of the worksheets that go with the labs that go with the videos are all in today's presentation folder.
Thanks again, Sue.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Always good talking to you folks.
Thank you.
Sue, thanks very much. I already downloaded a couple of those Tyler DeWitt and watched them and texted it to my grandson who's starting chemistry this fall.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
He's great.
When he doesn't have a video, I'm like, well, now how long am I going to be on YouTube trying to find a video?
Yeah.
If he has one, I'm like, okay, for 2 minutes.
Yeah. And, you know, a couple of my kids complain because he's slow, but like, my God, they get it if they listen to him.
Yeah.
Never.
And I like that he puts, I don't know, what's the actual term for it now, where he puts himself in the corner.
Yes.
So I personally like I like seeing you, not
that
just,
and his old-fashioned use of paper.
Yes.
Paper models.
Yes.
Yeah,
and Zoom, it evaporates. It's like, it's just the way I used to teach, but my God, it was so labor intensive. To have someone backing those concepts up is great.
Yeah, I got to figure out how to put myself in the corner again. But I got to go. In all honesty, ladies,
okay.
I need to go to the bathroom. Too much Diet Coke.
Bye. Thank you.
Kathy, can you call me?
Yeah, sure. I've been sitting down too long though. Oh.